In my last life I chased the wrong girl for 7 years, paid for her meals, tutored her, funded her, and got cheated on for my trouble. Then I drank myself to death as the richest man in the city. Now I'm 17 again, broke but healthy. And the girl who actually loved me is sitting right beside me. My head throbbed and my vision went black. And when I opened my eyes, I was not in my office. I stood on a hot sports field in my old high school uniform, sweat sticking to my back. A pretty girl in a blue and white uniform stood in front of me, looking annoyed, and the love letter in my hand made everything click into place. This was Qin Shui, the class beauty I simped over for 7 years. I was confessing to her again, and the whole class had gathered to watch me get brutally rejected like the loser I used to be. In my old life I would have begged. I would have clung to her every word like a starving dog waiting for scraps. But I was tired now, tired of a whole lifetime wasted on a woman who strung me along while spending my money on other men. So I tore the envelope into pieces, stuffed it in my pocket, and told her she should save her chances for someone else. Then I turned and walked away while she stomped her foot and shouted at my back. She looked panicked, since the old me never walked away first. Too bad for her. I found a shady spot and sat down on the grass to think. There was no doubt about it. I had been reborn, sent back to my high school days. My company, my house, my cars, my money, none of it came with me. I was a broke teenager again. But my body was young and healthy, no aches, no illness, no liver destroyed by years of business dinners. I closed my eyes and felt a strange kind of peace settle over me. Then someone sat down beside me, and when I looked over I could not breathe. The girl had her hair tied in a ponytail and a small tear mole at the corner of her right eye. Her uniform hugged a figure that other girls in our grade would cry over. This was Lu Yao, our class monitor, my childhood sweetheart. And the silly girl who secretly loved me for years but never had the guts to say it. In my past life I ignored her completely. I spent everything on Qin Shui while this girl quietly watched over me from behind. And I repaid her by giving her the cold shoulder until she gave up and moved abroad alone. "Wife," I said without thinking, staring at her like a finished man. It came straight from my bones. We had never even kissed in my last life, but my heart still called out to her. She smacked me on the head and snapped that she was not Qin Shui and asked if my failed confession had fried my brain. I rubbed the sore spot and grinned. The current Lu Yao was not the gentle wife who once cried by my deathbed. Right now our relationship was at zero, maybe even negative. We bickered constantly, two kids whose families wanted to match them up, but who ended up at each other's throats every single day. She shoved a small bottle of Wahaha into my hands, her voice soft and shaky, telling me it was to comfort me. To me that little drink sounded like heavenly music. I joked about why she got the fancy nutritional express while I got the cheap stuff, and she pretended to be angry and reached out to take it back. I jammed the straw in and started chugging before she could, because my wife had given it to me, and there was no way I was letting it go. She told me to forget about Qin Shui and study hard. I just stared at her with so much love in my eyes that she turned her head away and covered her mouth. She must have thought she was imagining things, since the old me never looked at her like that. But I could not help it. A man who had been drifting alone in a dark ocean for a whole lifetime had finally found his lighthouse again. The bell rang and I followed her back, mostly because I wanted to look at her longer, but also because I could not actually remember where the classroom was. Inside, my old buddy Hu Zhe threw an arm around my shoulder and offered the usual comfort about plenty of fish in the sea. This was the friend who would drop everything to drink with me in my past life, the only one who pulled me through my worst days, so I let him ramble. Then Lu Yao came down the aisle with a stack of test papers and told me to hand mine in. I dug through my desk drawer and found my paper completely blank, not a single answer's written. I stared at it like a brick. Before I could embarrass myself, she snorted, slapped her own finished paper onto my desk and walked off. Her name was written at the top in neat handwriting, every question answered perfectly. I looked at that paper and smiled like a doofus. In my past life I hung myself on the tree that was Qin Shui and completely ignored the girl who loved me, sitting right by my side the whole time. My tsundere wife was too cute when she pretended not to care. This time would be different. This time I would not waste a single day. Our two families were neighbors, and Lu Yao and I were born only minutes apart. Both sets of parents wanted to match us up. Sure, we were a perfect pair, but somewhere along the way we stopped being sweet and started being two cats hissing at each other. While she grew into a beautiful, well-behaved class monitor ranked first in the whole grade, I turned into a rebellious bum with grades in the single digits. My parents were always away for work, treating their own son like a stranger, and that empty house turned me into a problem child. The worse I got, the more I pushed Lu Yao away, calling her nagging annoying, even though she only wanted to help. In my past life it got worse after I latched onto Qin Shui. She was possessive and kept me on a short leash, so I cut Lu Yao off completely. The silly girl eventually gave up, studied abroad, and sent me one last text from the airport. I was too busy with Qin Shui's birthday to even reply. Remembering all of that now made my chest hurt. I had treated the only person who truly loved me like trash, and she still sat beside me trying to make me feel better. She told me to cry if I wanted, that she would not laugh, but her own mouth was twitching as she fought back a giggle. I told her to get lost and asked if that was how she comforted people. It was the same old bickering, but hearing it again felt warm instead of cold. When she reached out to feel my forehead and check for a fever, I leaned into her soft little hand and refused to move. To me, that touch was worth more than every yuan I made in my last life. After school, we headed home together since both our families lived in the same building. I lugged the test papers in my bag while she escorted me like a prison guard, terrified I would bolt to an internet cafe the way the old me always did. At dinner, her parents welcomed me like their own kid. Uncle Lou, the same man who would hand me my startup money in my past life, smiled and asked about my studies. Auntie cooked a whole table of food. Sitting in that warm home with parents who actually cared, my eyes stung. There was envy, and there was heartache. My own mother and father had not even shown their faces. Over the next days, I started really paying attention to her. We walked together, drank milk tea, and one weekend we hit the arcade and battled it out on the machines. I won, of course, and bragged about it while she pouted and called me a cheater. Watching her huff and demand a rematch, I felt like a happy kid again. At a noodle shop afterwards, she ordered rice noodles and dumplings, both things I loved, and I realized with a punch to the gut that I had no idea what she liked to eat. We were childhood sweethearts, and I never once learned her favorite food. I had been a bonehead simp who starved himself to buy gifts for a woman who spent it on other men, while ignoring the good girl right next to me. I picked up a dumpling and dropped it into her bowl, telling her I could not finish them all. She froze, pleasantly surprised, then quietly ate it. Little things like this were how I planned to make it up to her, one bite at a time. She told me she felt like I had changed, like I was not myself anymore. I figured she would say that, since we understood each other at least a little after growing up together. So I told her a story. I said I had a very long dream where I worked every job under the sun, almost passed out under a 40-degree sun with no money for medicine, and clawed my way up to becoming a boss. But even at the top I was tired, so tired, and in the dream I almost lost the most important person in my life. I left that last part vague and just said the dream scared me straight, that I wanted to study hard so I would never live such a hard life again. She listened quietly, resting her chin on her hand like my loyal little fangirl. When I finished, she smiled and said that even if it was just a dream, at least it made me want to study, so it was a good thing. She did not believe a person could change that much from one dream, but she did not push me on it either. I was grateful for that. I had not figured out how to tell her I was reborn without sounding like a smooth brain who belonged in a padded room. When the food came, I wolfed mine down while she watched. We shared the dumplings. Every time she picked one up, I felt like I was paying back a tiny piece of a giant debt. After eating, we walked home, and I tried every trick I could think of to keep her near me longer. I asked her to tutor me, asked to come study at her place, anything to stretch out the time. She shut me down and closed her door in my face, leaving me standing in the hallway rubbing my nose like a kicked puppy. Back in my own quiet room, I tore the Chinsho posters off my wall and tossed them in the trash. Then I wrote out a study schedule, stuck it up, and forced myself to crack open the books. My young brain soaked it up fast, but my hand cramped and my eyes burned, and I flopped over the desk, hating studying with every cell in my body. Still, I would suffer through it. This time I was going to that university with her, no matter what.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this reincarnation romance so far, do me a quick favor and drop a like. It really helps the channel out. Now let's get back to Lu Ning and Lu Yao.
The next morning I walked into class on time, which threw everyone off. Their bum classmate, the one who showed up later not at all, was suddenly in his seat memorizing poems and eating breakfast like a model student. While I studied, Qin Shui came over and stood beside my desk, frowning. She asked if I could stop being childish, like playing hard to get had a limit. I looked up at her like she was speaking another language. I had not sent her a single message all weekend, and I had posted about studying instead, so she figured I was running some sad little scheme. I told her whether I chased her or not was my own business, and now she was questioning me for not chasing. What kind of logic was that? Before she could keep yapping, Lu Yao cut in with her cold class monitor voice, telling them to stop disturbing others before early reading. I had never seen her go full strict mode before, and I was a little captivated, the corners of my mouth lifting. Qin Shui's face turned ugly, and with the whole class watching the two girls face off, I took the chance to shoo her away before she could say anything nasty. She stomped off with one last line about waiting for me at the old place. Then the homeroom teacher walked in and made everyone shut up and read. A few days later, Lu Yao's complexion went pale and she slumped over her desk holding her stomach. I noticed right away and got worried. She kept saying she was fine, but I figured it out. It was her period. I offered to take her to the hospital, But the teacher refused to let me stay and dragged me out to morning exercises while I looked back every 3 steps. On the field, my old friend Huze followed me to the school shop where I grabbed a bag of brown sugar. He kept assuming it was for Qin Shui and would not shut his trap about her, which made me want to gag every time her name came up. Back in the classroom, I grabbed Lu Yao's pink water bottle, washed it, and used the last few cents on my meal card to fill it with hot water. Then I poured in the brown sugar and stirred. When she woke up groggy and saw the steaming cup, she did not reach for it. Instead, she squinted at me and asked if I was trying to bribe her, suspicious that the old me had done something wrong. I almost cried at how deep the simp damage went. Being a doofus in my past life had ruined my reputation this badly. Her best friend Zhang Qingyu burst out laughing, and even Lu Yao cracked a smile. She finally took the cup and sipped, and the sweet warmth made her feel much better. Meanwhile, Qin Shui had skipped breakfast and was low on blood sugar. Slumped over her desk, feeling dizzy and sorry for herself, she watched me crouch beside Lu Yao with the gentle look I used to save only for her, and jealousy bloomed in her chest. The thing she once owned was being handed to someone else, and she did not like it one bit. Our bickering slowly turned into flirting. I teased her, pinched the air toward her cheeks, complimented her until her ears turned red, and she swatted me while pretending to be annoyed. During a free period when only the 2 of us sat in the empty classroom, she finally asked me straight out why I was suddenly being so nice to her. Her eyes, bright as a sea of stars, were full of curiosity. So I told her the truth, or part of it. I said it was because I liked her, and I wanted to pursue her. My voice dropped low as I dragged my chair closer. She backed away with her face going red, telling me not to even think about it. But when she saw my hopeful look start to fall, she rushed to add that I could think about it. I smiled. She had not rejected me. My sundry wife just could not say yes out loud yet, and her red ear tips gave her away every time. She told me to study hard first, and I pumped my fist and swore I would, because the current me really did need to earn the right to stand beside her. Then came the seat change. Huze spotted the new chart in the office and told me the class monitor, the study rep, and I were all placed in the back row by the window. It was the perfect chance to sit with my wife. The teacher handed the chart to the class to fill out, and Qin Shui kept fantasizing that I would beg to sit next to her. I marched straight to the office instead and pestered teacher Liu to let Lu Yao tutor me. He refused at first, terrified I would drag down his star student and that puppy love would ruin everything. I promised I would not affect her, swore she could move me the second her grades slipped, and even bragged I would jump my score by 200 points. He clearly did not believe me, but he gave in as long as Lu Yao agreed. When I got back, Lu Yao handed me the chart without a word. I looked down and saw that my name was already written neatly next to hers. My silly wife had filled it in for me herself while pretending she had nothing to do with it. I grinned like a buffoon, and she saw my dumb face and quietly curled her lips into a smile too. Huze whined about being abandoned, so I told him he could have my old prime spot in the back. He shook his head and said the location the teacher picked for me was actually pretty good, then decided to take it anyway. From now on, I would be sitting right next to the girl I planned to spend this whole life chasing. A few days later, Qin Shui cornered Lu Yao alone and said something cruel, accusing her of being a meddling outsider who used her power as class monitor to break us up. Lu Yao came out of the classroom with a cold face, brushed past me and walked toward the stairs without a word. I had no idea what had happened, but seeing her upset made my chest twist. Qin Shui chased after me, shouting that I was not allowed to leave, but I did not even slow down. She tripped, scraped her arm on the ground, and ended up curled up crying alone, but I was already gone. The high and mighty little princess could sit there and sob. I had a wife to chase down. I buzzed around Lu Yao calling her name, not daring to touch her but unable to leave her side. When she finally stopped, I told her if something was bothering her she could vent it on me, even beat me up if she wanted. She lowered her eyes and asked how long we had known each other. 18 years, I said. She murmured that everyone thought our relationship was bad, that I hated her, that Qin Shui and I were the real couple, and she could not even argue against it. Childhood sweethearts were just outsiders, no match for actual lovers. I apologized over and over, because a man who had been a boss and an old simp for so long still had no idea how to coax a crying girl. She told me not to follow her and got on the bus alone, leaving me cursing under my breath. But back home she knocked on my door later that night, her mom having told her to take me out to eat. On the way she apologized first, saying she had taken her temper out on me. I told her I had cut ties with Qin Shui completely, and that the woman had no right to drag her into anything. Over noodles at a small shop, I admitted I had been a finished man in the past, chasing the wrong person while the right one sat beside me. She did not stay angry, she never could. That was when the whole keeping a boy toy thing started. She controlled my money, deciding when and how much living expense I got so I would not blow it all. She tutored me, scolded me, and rewarded good grades by letting me hold her hand or pinch her soft cheeks. I leaned into every bit of it like a happy puppy. To outsiders she was the strict class monitor, but in private she was soft and easily embarrassed, turning red whenever I called her Yao Yao. At night we chatted on WeChat. Once I accidentally touched her cat profile picture and triggered the poke feature, which neither of us even knew existed. She thought I was hiding something, so I just told her the truth, that I missed her. She turned into a steam-emitting girl, flopped on her bed and rolled around with the blanket over her red face, while I leaned back in my chair grinning like a buffoon. I had pinned her chat and changed her name, deleting the old baby Shui nickname I had used for Qin Shui and tossing that whole part of my past in the trash. Then the nightmares came. In the dream I lay on a hospital bed, pale and lifeless, while Lu Yao cried beside me. She called me a big idiot, who could not tell that woman was rotten, and could not tell that she had loved me for years. She asked if I would marry her in the next life and begged me to look back at her just once. I jolted awake, soaked in sweat, my heart pounding, calling her name into an empty dark room with no one to answer. This was the deepest memory of my past life, the one that followed me like a shadow, reminding me every single moment that I had hurt the girl who was best to me. I splashed cold water on my pale face in the bathroom until I calmed down, then sat on the edge of my bed with tears sliding down. All that guilt turning into longing for her. I poured that longing into studying. My young brain soaked up knowledge fast, hundreds of times better than my disease-ridden self in my past life, and Lu Yao kept piling on practice papers like a strict little teacher. She bought me basic workbooks tailored to my trash foundation, checked every wrong answer, and twisted the knife by handing me even more once I improved. I complained that I was being worked harder than my own employees ever were, that even as a boss I had been a model capitalist, but she just patted my head and told me to be good. I grumbled that I had become a beast of burden, bitter and overworked, while she smiled and called it love. She rewarded me in small ways that kept me going. A few minutes of hand-holding turned into much longer once I laced my fingers with hers and refused to let go. I pressed her soft little hand against my face like a cat begging for affection, and she let me, her ears burning red. When I asked if I had earned a reward, she pinched my face and called it my prize. I drank it all in because every minute with her felt real, the opposite of the lonely empty top I had clawed my way to last time. My tsundere wife was easy to embarrass and even easier to love, and this time I was going to do it right. Qin Shui would not let it go. She sent her best friend Lin Yukon to act as a messenger, begging me to reconcile, claiming Qin Shui was so sad and wanted to apologize. I shut it down flat. I told Lin Yukon that an apology was not useful in every situation. I had been Qin Shui's so-called friend for 7 years, treated worse than a male best friend, starving myself to buy gifts, while she spent my money having fun with other men. I had no interest in going back to being that simp. Lin Yukon finally understood and said she would pass my words along. Meanwhile, life got better. I started a study group with Lu Yao, Hu Zhe, and Zhang Qingyu. We met at the library, drank milk tea, and grinded through problems together. Hu Zhe, who used to be a bum surfing the internet with me, got fired up watching us study and refused to be left behind. The power of role models was real. When you are gaming alone in a library and everyone around you is studying, guilt creeps in fast. Zhang Qingyu teased us non-stop, calling Lu Yao a lava-struck fangirl and watching our every move like she was eating popcorn at a live drama. Lu Yao swatted her and blushed, but she could not hide her smile. One day Hu Zhe went home early to fight for the dorm shower, leaving me alone with Lu Yao at the library. After everyone left, I stopped hiding my gaze and just stared at her while she worked on problems. She let me press my face into her hand again, stroking my hair like I was a cat, and I almost fell asleep right there. Then she slapped a fresh workbook in front of me and made me solve more problems, because she could not let me slack just because I had stayed behind to keep her company. I almost cried, but I did it anyway. Half an hour later our snacks ran out and we were starving, so we finally packed up and went to grab noodles before heading home. What I had not told her was that we both signed up for the same cram school. I had my own secret reasons for keeping quiet, but it worked out either way. On the first day I walked in expecting a long, boring weekend, dreading every painful symbol on the test papers. I spotted Lin Yukon there and asked if Qin Shui had come too. When she said no, I breathed a huge sigh of relief. Then someone sat down beside me and tapped my desk. I looked up and could not take my eyes away. Lu Yao was not in her school uniform. She wore a white dress with a bow at the waist, looking pure and full of youthful life, the dress hugging her figure in a way that left me speechless. I had thought I would not see her all day and felt disappointed, but the person I missed appeared right in front of me. I blurted out that she was beautiful and she turned her head away, ears going red, mumbling a thank you. She claimed her grades were dropping and she needed tutoring, which was nonsense since she was the smartest student in the grade. I teased her, asking if she came for me, and she snapped that I should stop flattering myself, but her secret was already exposed. The other guys in the class saw us interacting, realized she was taken, and gave up on going over to chat with her. The study sessions kept going at her place after school. One afternoon I finished my work, groggy and exhausted, and stumbled straight onto her bed without thinking. A faint fragrance hit my nose before I realized I was lying on Lu Yao's bed. She panicked and tried to drag me off, but I rolled to the inside, pulled the blanket up and refused to move. She gave up and let me nap, snatching her husky plushie out of my arms first so I would not mess with it. I drifted off, and somewhere in the haze I felt the bed shift. Lu Yao had taken off her shoes, climbed up and lay down next to me. She told herself it was just like nap time in kindergarten, when we used to see hugging each other as kids. She was clingy to me back then, and apparently those habits never fully died. She scooted closer, breathing in my scent, and dozed off with her arm around me. Then her mom knocked on the door, calling us out for dinner. I woke up groggy and found Lu Yao actually hugging me, her face peaceful and close to mine. My heart hammered. If the auntie had walked in and seen this, I would have no way to explain it without sirens going off in everyone's head. My movement woke Lu Yao, and the second she realized we were tangled together, she scrambled out of my arms, retreating several steps with her face bright red, demanding to know what I was doing. I laughed and reminded her that she was the one who climbed up and hugged me, and that I had been a perfectly well-behaved boy. She turned the tables and started smacking me with the pillow, too mortified to admit it. We finally untangled ourselves and went out to eat before her parents could grow suspicious. Her face stayed flushed the whole meal, and the two adults exchanged a look, both sensing something was up between us. I just kept my head down and ate, a happy buffoon savoring the warmth of a home and a girl I had thrown away in my last life. This time none of it would slip through my fingers. The weekend came, and I had a secret plan. I asked Lu Yao to lend me 600 yuan, telling her not to worry about why and that I would pay her back. She frowned but figured I wanted to buy something and transferred the money, warning me not to waste it since it was her own pocket money. I took it with a smile because in my heart it was my wife's money anyway. What I did not tell her was where I was going. While she went shopping with Zhang Qingyu, I rode the bus to the airport and caught a flight to Weishi. I knew exactly what was about to happen here. In my past life there was a famous story about a young man who walked into the jadeite gambling market, picked one big goose egg-shaped stone from a pile of scraps, and cut it open to find high-quality jade worth a fortune. It even made the news. I had cursed my own luck back then, wishing it had fallen to me. So this time I came to grab the Reborn benefit that belonged to me. I walked through the crowded market, found the exact stone, and bought it cheap. When I cut it open, the green inside was pure and beautiful, just as I remembered. A young rich girl with peach blossom eyes was there too, hunting for that same stone, and she paid a fat price to take it off my hands. Because I knew the buyer was desperate and dressed in expensive clothes, I named a high price, and she did not blink. I walked out with a 7-digit number on a card, earning even more than the lucky guy did in my past life. I was officially a millionaire again with my first pot of startup capital. The girl watched me leave from inside her car, fascinated. Her bodyguard told her I carried myself like a leader, fluid and decisive, the kind of person her father would invite to his company. The little princess bit her finger and ordered the bodyguard to dig up all my information. Clearly, I had piqued her interest, but I had no idea, and even if I did, I would not have cared. I only wanted enough money to live an easy life with Lu Yao this time, not another exhausting empire. While my phone buzzed with worried messages from Lu Yao, I covered the whole thing with the simplest excuse, that I was playing games at an internet cafe with my buddies. Lu Yao was hurt that I was out all day instead of with her. When I finally got home late, she sulked and gave me the cold shoulder, her mind dragging her back to my past life habits when I ignored her messages. I had to coax her hard with milk tea, bread, and a pile of apologies. She melted eventually, admitting she had been angry because she missed me, and I felt bad for making my wife worry, even if I could not explain the truth. I also took the chance to scout an old district nearby, a dirty, messy village in the city that I knew was about to be demolished. In my past life, this exact spot got bought up and turned into the towering office buildings of the Shengding Group, with plazas, parks, and malls springing up around it. The whole rundown place became a major business hub. I posted "will buy house" notices and chatted up the aunts and uncles, sweet-talking them, until some wanted to introduce their granddaughters to me. I politely turned them down, gathering information instead. Plenty of elderly folks, pushed by their kids, were ready to sell and leave. I planned to scoop up property quietly and maybe franchise a milk tea shop, a slow, comfortable way to make money. I did not want to be the tired old boss who drank himself to death again. This life would be simple, with money in the bank and the right girl by my side. Back home, the lies started piling up, and I had to keep my study act perfect so Lu Yao never grew suspicious. She kept assigning me more practice papers, and I kept grinding through them while juggling my secret trips. When I came back from one trip late, she had cooked breakfast for me in the morning and waited, only to find me gone, which made her overthink all over again. I coaxed her back with mystery brand bread that a buddy supposedly gave me and milk tea she had kept cold in the fridge until I returned. She drank it and softened, leaning against me on the couch while I rubbed her shoulders. The terrible nightmare came again one night. I saw myself dead on the hospital bed, Lu Yao crying over my body, asking why I was so stupid, saying she had loved me for years, and that if she had been braver we would not have ended up like this. She begged me to look back at her just once. I shot up in bed soaked in sweat, calling her name into the empty dark room. The guilt turned into longing so sharp it stung. That dream was the reason I refused to waste a single day. I had thrown away a whole lifetime of her love and I would not do it again. I sat on the edge of my bed, calmed my pounding heart, and looked at the card holding my new fortune. Money, knowledge, and a young healthy body. I had everything this time. All that was left was to keep her smiling, study my way into her dream university, and build the future I robbed us both of before. The little princess with the peach blossom eyes was somewhere out there digging into my name. But that was a problem for another day. For now, my wife was sleeping just one wall away. Lu Yao kept rewarding me with stacks of practice papers, which she called a favor with a sweet smile while I wanted to cry. My grades had climbed steadily through the last few exams, and the teachers who once wrote me off as a hopeless bum now openly praised the former delinquent. Teacher Lu announced that I had the biggest improvement in the class, and the whole room stared like I had grown a second head. Behind us, Qishui watched me chat and laugh with Lu Yao, her face twisting with a feeling she could not name. The weekend brought our first real date. Lu Yao stood in her living room in a pure white dress with a small canvas bag, and when I came out of my bedroom all dressed up, my eyes lit up. I blurted out that she was beautiful, and she called me a smooth talker, while a hint of shyness crept onto her face before she hid it. I had only brought my phone, never understanding why girls carried so many things. The November air was cool but the sun was bright, so when she opened her umbrella I took it from her hand and held it over her myself. I had picked a movie for the day, the least tiring way to hang out I could think of, and her legs were still sore from shopping the day before. So sitting in a dark theater sounded perfect to her. On the way we held hands in public for the first time. She kept her pace slow, nervous about being seen by anyone she knew, but she could not bring herself to let go. Her ears stayed pink the whole walk. We shared a fruit tea, and when she handed it to me, I drank from the same straw without hesitation. She panicked and called it an indirect kiss situation, then bit the same straw and turned her head away, refusing to admit she was flustered. After the movie I knew it was time. The setting sun lit up the two of us in our school uniforms as we walked, and I started to apologize. I told her my past actions had really let her down, that my sudden kindness toward her looked like a scumbag swapping targets the second he got rejected by someone else. I said I felt like a finished man trying to make amends. She fell quiet for a moment, then smiled and told me she did not see it that way. She said everyone makes mistakes, and what matters is fixing them, and if she said it was fine, then it was fine. Hearing that, my eyes went red and big teardrops rolled down my cheeks. The big boss worth a fortune in his last life was now crying like a little kid on the street, with no care for his image. Lu Yao froze, since she had never seen me lose it like this, then chuckled and dug through her bag for tissues. She wiped my face and called me ugly for crying, scolding me gently the whole time. People passing by after work smiled at the sight, reminded of their own school days. I suddenly pulled her into a hug and thanked her over and over with a tremble in my voice. She patted my back and told me she had never blamed me. Because she liked me, she really liked me, and I was the most important thing in her world now. I confessed again, holding her hand, my voice more serious than ever. I told her I liked her, that this was my promise, that I wanted a future with her. She did not pull away. She just nodded with her face beet red, and I wept with joy, almost shouting out loud. If we had not been on the street yet, I would have picked her up and spun her around right there. I asked if this meant she accepted my confession, and instead of answering she pinched me and called me an idiot, which was a yes in her own sunder way. Then she set the terms. She told me the plan stood that if we both got into the same university we would officially date. This was her only reservation, the one thing she would not let herself fully give yet, because more than anything she wanted us to walk into that school together. I understood completely. She was doing it for my own good, keeping me motivated, refusing to let love make me lazy. I told her I would work hard, that this was my promise and I would never break it, and she breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, saying she believed I would succeed. We sealed it as a half relationship, sweet but careful. She let me hold her hand when no acquaintances were around, lacing our fingers together herself once we were safe from prying eyes. She made me call her sister since she was half an hour older, and even though I teased that she looked more like a little sister, I went along with it in a doting voice that made her ears burn. When the bus came packed with no seats, I wrapped my arm around her slim waist to steady her, and she relaxed into it, glaring at me to behave while letting me stay. By the time we got home, my chest felt warm in a way it never had in my whole last life. I had a girl who waited for me, a fortune in the bank, a young healthy body, and a promise that bound us together. All I had to do now was study my way into her dream school and keep her smiling. The empty hospital bed from my nightmares felt a little farther away tonight, and the warm hand in mine felt more real than anything I had ever earned chasing the wrong person. The keeping a boy toy arrangement deepened as the weeks went on. Lu Yao controlled my money, tutored me, and rewarded my grades with cheek pinches and hand-holding, while I leaned into all of it like a happy puppy. One day I told her I felt bad, since to outsiders I looked like a scumbag who dumped one girl and jumped to the next overnight, giving Lu Yao all my affection. She just smiled and told me she gained the most important thing in the world, leaving me red-faced and grateful. My tsundere wife always knew exactly what to say to wreck me. Around this time my father called. In my past life I'd cut ties with my family completely, too proud to touch their money, too angry at being a left-behind kid raised by an empty house. But this time I picked up. He spoke gently, telling me the company was less busy and they might come home for a visit. I gave him short answers, but I did not hang up on him. The rift between us was slowly starting to close, and I realized my parents had not actually mistreated me, just neglected me, which was its own kind of wound. Still, this version of me was calmer, more mature, and willing to let the door open a crack. Then Qinxue made her final play. She stopped me again and again, more humble each time, until I agreed to talk under the banyan tree on the playground, the same spot where she rejected me on the day I was reborn. She apologized for how she treated me before and asked if we could start over, promising to say yes if I confessed again. I shook my head. I told her I was already with Lu Yao, and a touch of tenderness filled my eyes as I said it openly and proudly. She broke down, saying I once told her I hated Lu Yao. I told her that was in the past, and that I had to thank her for helping me see who truly loved me. I gave her the full story of how we met, the thing that started everything. Years ago I was at an internet cafe when some thugs picked a fight with me, and Qinxue, who was taking online classes there, stepped in to stop it and took me to the hospital afterward. Her gentleness back then nourished a rebellious left-behind kid's cold heart, and I mistook that gratitude for love. From that day I became her simp, doing anything she needed, calling it love when it was just a stray dog dreaming of going home with the princess. I explained that to her now under the tree. I told her that to her, that day was probably just an unintentional act of kindness, a ham sausage tossed to a dog on the side of the road. I was the bonehead who built a whole worship around it. She cried, saying she was sorry, that she had learned too late that love needed effort from both sides. I told her not to apologize, that she had not done anything wrong, that I just had not been worthy back then. She asked one more time if we could start over, and I said no, that it would not be fair to Lu Yao. I offered her only friendship and told her she would find someone who loved her more. She sat down on the ground, watched my back as I walked away, then covered her face and cried, finally understanding what she had thrown away. When I got back to the classroom, Lu Yao was waiting. She did not ask me anything, full of confidence, saying she trusted her kept boy toy would not dare misbehave. I laughed and told her everything anyway over our meal, making it clear I had cut Qinxue off for good. Lu Yao did not say much, but she was visibly happy. Now I truly belonged to her. Later I hinted that I still had many secrets, things about her she did not know. She said she did not have the habit of listening to other people's secrets, but when I said they were about her, she got curious. I told her that when the time was right after the college entrance exam, I would tell her everything. She nodded and said she would be all ears. I planned to lay the groundwork now and reveal my rebirth once we were safely in university together, since telling her any sooner would just get me labeled a smooth brain who belonged in a padded room. That night the nightmare came again, the empty hospital bed, Lu Yao weeping over my pale body, begging me to look back at her just once. I woke up soaked in sweat, calling her name into the dark. But this time, when morning came, she was knocking on my door with breakfast, alive and warm and real. She noticed my dark circles and worried, and I told her I just had not slept well, hiding the truth so she would not fret. I held her soft little hand on the walk to school, using my exhaustion as an excuse, and she let me, rolling her eyes while taking the initiative to grab my fingers. I had everything this life that I lacked in the last one. A fortune in the bank, a young healthy body, parents slowly coming back into my life, and a girl who waited 18 years for me. The past was finally closed. The banyan tree behind me, Qinxue behind me. All that was left was the future I had robbed us both of before. And this time I was going to build it right, one warm ordinary day at a time. Teacher Liu announced a 2-day weekend, and the whole class erupted in cheers. After a long stretch of constant small tests and major exams, the rest felt earned. He warned us not to fall behind, pointing at the college entrance exam countdown on the blackboard, but most students were already daydreaming about how to have fun. I rested my chin on my hand and thought about my own plans instead. My fortune was growing quietly. Beyond the jade money and the lottery number I remembered, I was sitting on tens of millions, and I planned to use the weekend to revisit that rundown district before it got demolished. I still remembered how the whole place would turn into the Shengding Group business hub, so scooping up property there was easy money. I was also thinking about franchising a milk tea shop, picking a good spot and earning slowly. A simple, comfortable life, not the exhausting empire that drank me into the grave last time. The study group decided to relax that weekend, so no library session. I told them I would study at home instead, and Lu Yao said she could not go out with Zhang Qingyu because of me, which made her best friend whine about being abandoned the moment Lu Yao got a boyfriend. The truth was I needed the free weekend to handle my secret business, and I made an excuse about gaming at an internet cafe with friends. My absences kept causing friction. Lu Yao threw small tantrums, missing me intensely while I ran around the city. One morning she even cooked breakfast and used her key to bring it over, only to find my room empty and my bed made. She panicked and sent message after message, her mind dragging her back to my past life habits when I ignored her texts. When I finally replied with the internet cafe excuse, she sulked and demanded to know which cafe, threatening to come catch me. I coaxed her back with a pile of kneeling apology emojis and promises to write extra test papers, and she melted, telling me to play less for the sake of my eyes. When I came home late from scouting the district, I brought peace offerings. There was bread from a mystery brand a buddy supposedly gave me, which she eyed suspiciously since it was not sold anywhere nearby, and milk tea. She had kept it cold in the fridge all day waiting for me to return. She drank it and softened, leaning against me on the couch while I rubbed her shoulders and apologized. She admitted she had been angry only because she missed me, and I felt bad for making my wife worry, even though I could not tell her the truth. We kept up our private evening study sessions over the phone too. She would call to scold me about staying up late, then send voice messages saying goodnight that I made her record over and over until I was satisfied. I told her I could not sleep without hearing her voice, and she rolled around on her bed like a worm, face burning, calling me a bad guy through the phone. Even apart, our relationship deepened through these small reconciliations and gifts. Then came the end-of-month exam results. Teacher Liu read out the report card and announced that the biggest improvement belonged to me, the former bum delinquent. The whole class was shocked that praise for me came out of a teacher's mouth. Some whispered that maybe quitting the simp life had awakened my hidden talent. I had jumped my score by 200 points, fulfilling the promise I made under the banyan tree, all thanks to Lu Yao's brutal tutoring and the stacks of papers she buried me under. I stole a glance at her solving problems beside me and gave her a knowing smile. As if we shared a telepathic link, she turned her head at the same moment, saw my grin, and curled her lips before quickly going cold and glaring at me to focus. After the exam, I bought her a fruit tea, telling her she had earned it. When she handed it back for me to share, I drank from the same straw, and she bit the same straw afterward and turned her head away, refusing to admit it counted as an indirect kiss. That night the terrible nightmare returned. I saw myself dead on the hospital bed, pale and lifeless, while Lu Yao cried over my body, asking why I was so stupid, saying she had loved me for years, begging me to look back at her just once. I shot up in bed soaked in sweat, my heart pounding, calling her name into the empty dark room with no one to answer. The guilt turned into longing so sharp it stung. That dream was the exact reason I refused to waste a single day this time. I had thrown away a whole lifetime of her love and watched her cry over my corpse, and I would walk through fire before I let that happen again. I sat on the edge of my bed and calmed my breathing. I had money, knowledge, a young healthy body, parents slowly coming back, and a girl who had waited 18 years for me. The countdown on the blackboard ticked down toward the exam that would decide whether we walked into university together. The little princess with the peach blossom eyes was still out there somewhere, digging into my name, but that was a worry for another day. For now my wife was just one wall away, and the future I had robbed us both of was finally within reach. The first official date day finally arrived. Lu Yao stood in her living room in a pure white dress with a small canvas bag on her shoulder, and when I came out of my bedroom all dressed up, I froze and stared. I told her she looked beautiful, and she called me a smooth talker while her cheeks went pink and she quickly hid the look. I had only grabbed my phone, never understanding why girls hauled around so many things. The November sun was bright but the air stayed cool, and when she opened her umbrella, I took it from her hand and held it over the two of us myself. She watched me snatch the umbrella away and said nothing, just smiled. I had picked a movie for the day, a Japanese animation she wanted to see, the least tiring way I could think of to hang out. Her legs were still sore from a long day of walking earlier in the week, so sitting in a dark theater sounded perfect to her. We walked toward the bus stop side by side, and somewhere along the way her hand brushed mine until I gently laced our fingers together. She did not pull away, only gripped me a little tighter, her ears turning red as she stared at the road ahead. This was the real start. We were no longer the two bickering kids who hissed at each other every single day. We had become an actual couple, sweet and careful, walking under one umbrella toward the theater. I stole glances at her the whole way, this silly girl who waited 18 years for me, who climbed onto a bed just to nap hugging me, who buried me under practice papers while calling it a reward. In my last life, I hung myself on the wrong tree and watched her slip away. In this one, she was holding my hand in broad daylight. The whole thing still felt like a dream I refused to wake from. A man who wasted an entire lifetime chasing the wrong girl, who built a fortune and drank himself into the grave, was now savoring a simple high school romance, one cool, bright afternoon at a time. Every small thing felt like treasure. The pink in her ears, the warmth of her fingers, the bow at the waist of her white dress, the slow, careful way she matched her steps to mine. None of it was the empty top of the mountain I had clawed my way to before. All of it was real, earned and mine. I had everything this life that the last one denied me. A fortune sitting quietly in the bank from the Jade gamble. A young healthy body free of the illness that killed me. Parents slowly coming back into my world after years of an empty house. And a girl who never once stopped loving me even when I gave her every reason to. The terrible nightmare of the hospital bed, the one where she wept over my pale, lifeless body and begged me to look back just once, felt farther away than it ever had. This time I had looked back. This time I had chosen her. The college entrance exam countdown still ticked on the blackboard, the goal that would decide whether we walked into her dream university together. I had jumped 200 points and kept climbing, and with her tutoring me and my Reborn drive pushing me forward, that same school felt within reach. Once we got there, I would finally tell her everything, the rebirth, the past life, all the secrets I promised to share when the time was right. She said she would be all ears. And out there somewhere, the little princess with the peach blossom eyes was still digging into my name after watching me cut open that jade. The Shengding group district I had quietly scouted was still waiting to be demolished and reborn into a business hub. There were futures stacking up around me, fortunes and powerful families, and plans I had carried over from a whole other lifetime. But none of that mattered today. Today there was only the white dress, the shared umbrella, the warm hand in mine, and a movie we were walking toward together. This brings us to the end of the video. Will Lu Ning and Lu Yao make it into the same university and finally become an official couple? What happens when the mysterious rich girl finds him again? And what will Lu Yao say when she finally learns the truth about his rebirth?
If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and comment. Tear up the letter if you want the next part to this series. See you in the next video.